She covered her aunt's shift as a cleaner at a hotel and was mistaken for a guest by a millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into today's story. Imagine this. You're filling in for your aunt at a high-end hotel, dressed in your cleaning uniform, not a care in the world. But then, something unexpected happens. You're mistaken for a guest by a millionaire. What happens next will change everything. Let's find out. After the dinner, Emma walked out of the hotel with her heart racing. Liam had made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of importance, of being seen. But as the night air hit her, reality began to settle in. She wasn't one of them. She was just a regular girl trying to make ends meet, filling in for her sick aunt at a high-end hotel. She couldn't afford to be swept up in a fantasy. She had to remind herself of that. She had dreams, sure, but they were far from the reality of this world of millionaires and CEOs. Still, something about Liam made her hesitate. She had never met anyone like him before. The way he listened to her, really listened, made her feel heard. For once, she wasn't just another waitress in a sea of customers. She was Emma. And for that one night, that was enough. But as she walked to her small apartment, doubts crept in. Maybe she had misjudged the situation. Maybe Liam was just being polite, nothing more. After all, he was a millionaire CEO. What could someone like him possibly see in her? The next few days were a blur of cleaning shifts, her hands raw from scrubbing and wiping, trying to push the memory of the dinner from her mind. But it wasn't easy. She couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he had smiled at her, how he had shared a bit of his life, even though they both knew their worlds were completely different. That Friday afternoon, while Emma was in the break room, wiping down a counter and trying to ignore the nagging thought of Liam, her phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. Hi Emma. It's Liam. I'd love to see you again. Would you be interested in having coffee sometime? Emma froze, the cloth in her hand dropping to the counter. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding in her chest. Liam Parker. The Liam Parker. She felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. This had to be some sort of mistake. She couldn't be the one he wanted to see again. Was he just being polite again? Or maybe it was just a simple friendly gesture. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she typed out a response. Hi Liam. I'm surprised to hear from you. Coffee sounds nice though. When would you like to meet? She hesitated before hitting send, her mind racing. Was she making a mistake? But before she could second-guess herself, the message was sent. Almost immediately, a reply popped up. How about tomorrow at noon? I know a quiet cafe near the park. Let me know if that works for you. She smiled to herself, trying to ignore the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. It had been years since anyone had made her feel this way. The next day, Emma stood in front of the cafe, her stomach in knots. She had put on her best outfit, but it still felt out of place compared to the other people sitting at the tables, sipping their fancy drinks. She adjusted her hair nervously and checked her phone. It was almost noon. Liam hadn't texted yet, so she wondered if maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he wasn't coming after all. She pushed the thought away and stepped into the cafe. She scanned the room for him, her eyes darting over the tables until she spotted him sitting by the window, looking out over the street. He was dressed casually, but even in a simple shirt and jeans, he still looked effortlessly stylish. He glanced up as she walked toward him and smiled. Emma, you came, he said warmly, standing to greet her. Of course, I came, she replied with a small laugh, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. I said I would. He pulled out the chair for her, and she sat down, trying not to let her nerves show. I'm glad you agreed to meet, Liam said, his voice soft. I've been thinking about you since that night. Emma felt a flush creep up her neck. Really? She asked, a little unsure of what to make of his words. Yeah, Liam replied, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart race. There's something about you, Emma. You're different. She smiled, though she wasn't entirely sure what he meant. I'm just a regular girl, she said, shrugging. I'm sure you meet a lot of interesting people. Liam shook his head. Not like you. You're genuine. And that's rare. Emma's heart skipped a beat. No one had ever said something like that to her before. She tried to brush it off, but the words stuck with her, lingering in the back of her mind. She had spent so much of her life trying to fit into a world that didn't feel like it was made for her. But here was Liam, a man who had everything, telling her that she was special. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe it. The conversation flowed easily after that, just like it had at dinner. They talked about their lives, their dreams, and the things they wanted to accomplish. For a while, it felt like the world had faded away, and there was only the two of them in that small cafe, sharing their thoughts, their hopes, and a connection that neither of them had expected. As they finished their coffee, Liam looked at her with a smile. "I'm glad we did this," he said. "Me too," Emma replied, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm glad I came." "I'm glad you did too," Liam said, his tone a little softer now. "I'd love to see you again, if you're up for it." Emma felt her heart skip a beat. This wasn't just a one-time thing. He really did want to see her again. She smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and uncertainty. "I'd like that." And just like that, everything began to shift. The life she had known, the one she had always thought she was stuck in, suddenly felt a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable. Maybe, this could be the start of something new. The next few days were a whirlwind for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and their coffee date. His words echoed in her mind. "You're different." She couldn't quite figure out why those words made her feel both special and uneasy at the same time. She had been so careful about protecting herself, guarding her heart against disappointment. But there was something about Liam that made her want to believe. That weekend, Emma found herself standing in front of her small apartment, staring at her phone. It was a message from Liam. "How about dinner tomorrow night? I'd love to see you again." Her stomach fluttered. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this. Could it really be possible? Could a guy like Liam, a millionaire with the world at his feet, actually be interested in someone like her? But she couldn't deny the pull she felt. There was something between them, something real. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the fluttering in her chest, before typing her reply. "Sure, tomorrow works for me. Where would you like to go?" Almost immediately, Liam responded with a suggestion for a fancy restaurant downtown. Emma hesitated for a moment before agreeing, knowing full well that this was a world she didn't belong in. The next day, as she prepared for their dinner, she found herself in front of her closet, staring at the clothes she owned. Nothing seemed right for a night out with someone like Liam. She didn't have the fancy outfits, the elegant dresses that the women around him wore. She looked at herself in the mirror, feeling a sense of inadequacy creeping in. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't rich. But she wasn't going to let that stop her. She pulled on a simple but elegant dress she had bought on sale a few months ago, did her hair as best as she could, and applied a light touch of makeup. When she stepped out of her apartment, she couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. She took the bus downtown, trying to ignore the thoughts swirling in her mind. Was she making a mistake? Was she getting too carried away? When she arrived at the restaurant, she felt out of place the moment she stepped inside. The soft lighting, the fancy decor, the well-dressed patrons, everything about it screamed luxury. She could feel the eyes of the staff on her as she stood by the entrance, unsure if she belonged. But then, Liam's voice cut through the uncertainty. "Emma," he called, standing at a table by the window, his face lighting up when he saw her. She smiled and made her way over to him, trying to push her doubts aside. "You look amazing," Liam said as she sat down across from him. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. "Thank you," she replied, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. She wasn't used to compliments like this. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she added with a small laugh. Liam smiled and nodded. "I thought I'd take you somewhere nice," he said. "You deserve it." The waiter arrived, and they quickly ordered, their conversation flowing easily. Emma was surprised at how comfortable she felt. They talked about everything. Her life growing up, her love for art, her dreams of one day opening her own studio. She shared the struggles she faced, the difficulties of trying to make a living while pursuing something she was passionate about. Liam listened intently, his eyes soft and understanding. It was like he wasn't just hearing her. He was truly listening. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was talking to someone who really cared. But there was still that nagging feeling in the back of her mind. She was just a regular girl. A waitress. He was a millionaire, someone who had everything. What did someone like him see in her? She couldn't shake the feeling that she was out of her depth, that she didn't belong in his world. As the evening wore on, Liam's attentiveness made her feel more and more at ease. She found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't expected. She told him about her mother, how she had passed away when Emma was younger, and how that loss had shaped the person she had become. Liam was quiet for a moment, his expression softening as he listened. "I'm sorry about your mom," he said, his voice gentle. "It sounds like she was a great person." Emma smiled faintly. "She was. She always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Liam reached across the table, gently placing his hand on hers. The simple gesture made her heart skip a beat. She looked up at him, feeling a surge of warmth. "I believe in you too, Emma," he said quietly. The words hung in the air between them, a moment of connection that felt both unexpected and beautiful. For the first time, Emma allowed herself to truly believe it. Maybe she was worthy of someone like Liam. Maybe she was worthy of happiness. As the night came to a close, Liam paid the bill, and they left the restaurant together. Outside, the cool evening air hit them, and Liam turned to her with a smile. "I'm really glad you came tonight," he said. "Me too," Emma replied, her heart racing. She wasn't sure where this was going, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. Maybe the life she had imagined for herself wasn't so far out of reach after all. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new. The following week, Emma found herself unable to stop thinking about Liam and their time together. The dinner they shared had felt so natural, so comfortable. He had made her feel like she mattered, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But there was a part of her that still hesitated. She had spent so much of her life convincing herself that she didn't belong in his world, that it was all a fantasy, that he could never truly care for someone like her. After all, he was a millionaire, and she was just a waitress trying to make a living. But something about the way he looked at her, the way he listened, made her wonder if maybe she had been wrong all along. It wasn't just the wealth that set Liam apart. It was the way he treated her, the way he saw her as more than just a face in a crowd. He made her feel seen, and that was something Emma had never experienced in a relationship before. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, unsure of what to do next. He had texted her earlier that week, asking if she would like to join him for another dinner, and for the first time, she didn't know how to respond. She wanted to see him again, of course, but there was still that lingering doubt in the back of her mind. Was she just another passing interest for him, or was there something real between them? Taking a deep breath, Emma finally typed out a message. "I'd love to join you for dinner again, Liam. When do you have in mind?" She hit send and immediately regretted it. What was she thinking? She couldn't go back to that world. She didn't belong there. But her phone buzzed, and her heart skipped a beat when she saw his reply. "How about Friday? I know a quiet spot by the lake. It'll be just the two of us, away from everything else." The thought of spending more time with him made her smile. The idea of a quiet dinner, away from the crowds and the pressure of the world, felt right. She quickly replied, "Friday sounds perfect." On Friday, Emma found herself standing in front of the mirror, adjusting the simple dress she had worn to their first dinner together. It wasn't fancy, but it made her feel good, and that was all that mattered. She had been nervous about their first dinner, but now, she felt a little more at ease. This time, she wasn't just filling in for her aunt at the hotel. She was going because Liam had asked her to. He wanted to spend time with her, and that meant more than anything. As she walked to the cafe where they had agreed to meet, Emma couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement in her chest. The night air was crisp, and the streetlights bathed everything in a soft glow, making the world seem almost magical. She arrived at the lakefront restaurant, a cozy little spot with wooden floors and large windows overlooking the water. Liam was already there, waiting by the window, looking relaxed in a simple shirt and jeans. He stood up when he saw her, his face breaking into a warm smile. "You look stunning," he said, his voice full of admiration. Emma blushed, feeling a rush of warmth. "Thank you," she replied, trying to hide her nerves. As they sat down, the conversation flowed easily once again. They talked about their lives, their interests, and their dreams. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she could let her guard down. She didn't have to pretend to be someone she wasn't. She could just be herself, and Liam seemed to appreciate that. As the evening went on, Emma found herself opening up more and more. She shared stories about her childhood, about her mom, and how she had always dreamed of becoming an artist. Liam listened with genuine interest, asking questions, offering encouragement. She had never felt so supported, so understood. And then, just as the meal was winding down, Liam leaned forward, his eyes soft as he looked at her. "Emma," he said, his voice low, "I'm really glad we met. You've brought something into my life that I didn't even know I was missing." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what to say. She had never been this vulnerable with anyone, and she wasn't sure how to respond. But before she could say anything, Liam continued. "I know this might sound sudden, but I want you to know that I'm serious about us. I think there's something special here, something worth exploring. You don't have to feel the same way right now, but I just wanted to tell you how I feel." The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Emma couldn't speak. She had never imagined that Liam, someone so confident and successful, could feel the way he did about her. She had always thought that people like him didn't care about people like her. But here he was, laying his feelings out on the table, vulnerable and honest. Finally, she found her voice. "Liam," she said softly, "I think there's something special here too. I've never met anyone like you before, and I'm willing to take this one step at a time." A smile spread across Liam's face, and Emma could see the relief in his eyes. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "That's all I'm asking," he said. "One step at a time." As they finished their meal and walked out into the cool night air, Emma felt a sense of calm settle over her. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. She was ready to see where this could go, one step at a time. The next few weeks flew by in a blur for Emma, and each day seemed to bring her closer to something she never expected. After that evening by the lake, she and Liam spent more time together, going for walks, visiting art galleries, and having dinners in quiet, intimate places where they could just be themselves, away from the noise of the world. Emma felt a sense of peace when she was with him, a peace she hadn't realized she had been missing. For once, she wasn't second-guessing herself, wondering if she was good enough. She was just Emma, and that was enough. Liam continued to be a constant source of support and encouragement, not just for her dreams, but for her as a person. He asked about her art, about her vision for the future, and he genuinely listened when she spoke. But there was still a part of her that felt hesitant. She had grown up in a world where money was always tight, where dreams often felt like they were out of reach, and while Liam was kind and thoughtful, he was still a millionaire. And Emma wasn't. She didn't come from that world, and sometimes it felt like a wall between them, a wall she wasn't sure how to break down. One afternoon, as they sat on a park bench, the fall breeze rustling the leaves around them, Emma found herself lost in thought. Liam was talking about a new project at work, but she wasn't fully listening. Her mind was focused on the growing doubts in her heart. "What's going on, Emma?" Liam asked gently, his eyes scanning her face. "You seem distant today." She hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to voice the fears that had been lingering in her mind. "It's just, I don't know," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about the future. And I don't come from your world, Liam. You're a millionaire. You have everything. And I'm just a girl working to pay the bills, trying to make something of myself. I'm scared I'm not enough for you." Liam's expression softened, and he reached over, taking her hand in his. "Emma," he said, his voice warm and reassuring, "I don't want you to feel that way. You are more than enough for me. I don't care about how much money you have or where you come from. What matters to me is who you are, your heart, your passion, your drive. That's what I see in you, and that's what makes me want to be with you." Emma felt a rush of emotions flood over her as she looked into his eyes. She had always been so guarded, so afraid of opening up to someone, afraid that they would one day see her as nothing more than a waitress who had big dreams, but no real way of achieving them. But Liam was different. He saw her for who she truly was, not for her job, not for her circumstances. He saw her heart. "But don't you think the difference between us is too big?" Emma asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I mean, we're from different worlds. What if that becomes a problem?" Liam shook his head, his smile soft but firm. "It won't," he said. "Love doesn't work that way, Emma. It's not about the size of the bank account or the car you drive. It's about how you make each other feel. And I feel like I can be myself with you. I feel like I've found someone who makes me better." Emma's heart swelled at his words, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of hope bloom within her. Maybe this could work. Maybe they could make it work. As the weeks went by, Emma allowed herself to open up more, to embrace the connection she and Liam had. They continued to support each other in their own ways. Liam helping her with her art, introducing her to people who could help her achieve her dreams, and Emma giving Liam a glimpse into a world he had never fully understood. She brought him to her small apartment, showing him where she had spent years building her dream. He was fascinated by the sketches on her walls, the books she had collected over the years, and the determination she had shown in pursuing her passion despite the obstacles in her way. "I think your art is incredible, Emma," Liam said one evening as they sat together, looking at her latest piece. "You have such a unique perspective. You've got something special." His words made her heart swell with pride, and for the first time, she truly believed it. She wasn't just some girl working a job. She was an artist, someone with a vision and the talent to make it happen. And Liam, the man who had everything, saw her potential. That realization was a turning point for Emma. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was someone who had the power to create the life she wanted, with or without the wealth that Liam had. But she didn't need to do it alone. She had him by her side, and that meant more than anything. As they spent more time together, Emma's feelings for Liam grew stronger. She couldn't deny the connection they shared, the way they complemented each other, and the way he made her feel seen and valued. One evening, as they sat by the lake, watching the sunset together, Liam turned to her with a serious expression. "Emma," he said softly, "I've been thinking about something. I want you to know that I'm serious about us. I want to build a future with you, and I hope you feel the same way." Emma looked into his eyes, her heart pounding in her chest. She had always been afraid of love, afraid of getting hurt, but now, with Liam, she wasn't afraid anymore. She smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. "I feel the same way, Liam. I'm ready to build that future with you." And in that moment, she knew that they were ready to take the next step together, no matter where life took them. As the months passed, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger, their bond becoming something neither of them had expected, but both cherished deeply. Emma had never imagined she could be this happy, not in a million years. But here she was, living a life she had only ever dreamed of, and all because of one chance encounter, one simple mistake at a hotel that had changed everything. The way Liam looked at her, the way he made her feel, was something she had never experienced before. For so long, Emma had believed that love was for people with perfect lives, for those who had it all together, for the wealthy and the successful. But Liam had shown her that love wasn't about perfection. It was about finding someone who saw you for who you truly were and loved you for it. As their relationship deepened, Emma found herself more and more willing to take risks, to believe in the future they could build together. And with each passing day, she felt more and more at home in Liam's world, though still with a few doubts lingering in her mind. They had talked about their future, about the life they both wanted to create. Liam had supported Emma's dream of opening her own art studio and had already started introducing her to people who could help her make that dream a reality. He wasn't just offering her money or resources. He was offering her his support, his belief in her, and that meant everything. Emma had begun working on her art full-time, pouring her heart and soul into each piece, knowing that Liam was by her side, cheering her on every step of the way. But with that came a new challenge, one that Emma hadn't fully anticipated. As her art began to gain attention, she started receiving invitations to exhibit her work in galleries, to participate in prestigious art shows, and her name began to be recognized in the art world. The problem was, the more successful she became, the more she feared that the world she had stepped into, the world of wealth and privilege, was starting to pull her away from the life she had known. She felt torn between her roots, the humble beginnings that had shaped her, and the world that Liam had introduced her to. One evening, after a particularly exciting day when she had signed her first major art deal, Emma sat with Liam in their favorite park, the one where they had spent so many afternoons talking about their dreams. The city skyline glimmered in the distance, but Emma was lost in her thoughts. "What's on your mind, Emma?" Liam asked, his voice soft, as he watched her carefully. She sighed, her gaze fixed on the horizon. I'm struggling," she admitted. "I've always wanted to make something of myself, to be successful, to have my own studio. But now that it's happening, I'm afraid of losing who I am, of losing touch with the person I've always been." Liam looked at her, his eyes understanding. He reached over and took her hand, gently squeezing it. Emma, you're not going to lose who you are. You've always had the passion, the heart, and the drive to succeed. The success you're having now is just a reflection of your talent and your hard work. But it doesn't change who you are. Emma looked at him, feeling the weight of his words sink in. But what if it's too much? What if I'm not meant for this world? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Liam smiled, a warm, reassuring smile that made Emma's heart flutter. You're meant for this world, Emma. You're meant for more than this world, actually. You just have to trust yourself. Trust that the person you've always been is the person you're always going to be, no matter how much success you find. His words were simple, but they were exactly what she needed to hear. Slowly, the doubts that had been swirling in her mind began to quiet. She had always been afraid of success, of the responsibility that came with it, but Liam was right. She had worked hard for this, and she deserved it. She didn't have to change who she was to fit into this new life. She could still be herself, and she could take this journey at her own pace. Thank you, she whispered, squeezing his hand. I needed to hear that. Liam leaned in and kissed her gently on the forehead. I'll always be here for you, Emma, no matter what. That night, as they walked hand in hand back to their apartment, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. She knew that no matter where life took her, she wouldn't be alone. She had Liam by her side, and together, they could face anything. And as they reached their doorstep, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. The life she had always dreamed of, one filled with love, success, and happiness, was within her reach, and she was finally ready to embrace it, one step at a time. As the days went on, Emma felt a shift in herself, a change she hadn't quite anticipated. The fear that had once gripped her heart, the worry that she wasn't enough, seemed to fade with each passing day. With Liam's unwavering support, she began to see herself differently. She was no longer just the girl with big dreams. She was the artist who had made those dreams a reality. She had worked hard to get where she was, and now it was paying off. But even with all the success she was achieving, Emma never lost sight of what mattered most, staying true to herself. She wasn't willing to let the world of wealth and prestige change her, even though it had already begun to open doors she had once thought were out of reach. One afternoon, Emma found herself standing in front of a large gallery window, admiring the exhibit that showcased some of her best pieces. The crowd inside was sophisticated, the kind of people she had never imagined would be interested in her art. Yet, there they were, admiring her work, discussing the colors and textures, and buying pieces for their homes. She had done it. She had made it to the level she had always dreamed of, and it felt surreal. As she stood there, Liam joined her, slipping his arm around her waist. You should be so proud of yourself, Emma, he said, his voice filled with pride. This is just the beginning for you. She smiled up at him, feeling a warmth spread through her. I never thought I'd get here, she confessed, her voice soft. But here I am. I just hope I don't lose myself in all of this. Liam looked down at her, his expression serious. You won't lose yourself, he said firmly. Not as long as you remember what brought you here in the first place. Your heart, your passion, your art. That's what matters. Not the fame, not the wealth. Just you. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. He always knew what to say to make her feel seen, to remind her of who she was. And she realized, in that moment, that she didn't need to be afraid anymore. She had found her place in the world, and she had found someone who truly understood her. As the night wore on, the gallery buzzed with excitement. Emma mingled with the guests, accepting compliments on her work, but always returning to Liam, who seemed to be as proud of her as she was of herself. He was her rock, her anchor in this world that sometimes felt like it was moving too fast, and he never once made her feel like she didn't belong. As the evening drew to a close, Liam turned to her, taking her hand in his. How about we get out of here? He asked with a smile. I think we both deserve some time to ourselves. Emma nodded, grateful for his thoughtfulness. They left the gallery together, stepping into the cool night air. The city was alive with lights and sounds, but it felt peaceful in that moment, as if the world had quieted just for them. They walked in silence for a while, simply enjoying each other's company, until Liam stopped in front of a small park. Let's sit for a while, he suggested, and Emma agreed, following him to a bench under a tree. As they sat there, the weight of the night's events began to sink in. Emma couldn't help but smile. I can't believe this is real, she said softly. Everything I've worked for is finally happening. Liam turned to her, his eyes warm and affectionate. You deserve it all, Emma, he said, his voice sincere. And I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished. She smiled, feeling a rush of emotion. Thank you, she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. For believing in me. For being here. Liam leaned in, brushing a gentle kiss against her forehead. I'll always be here, Emma. I believe in you, and I always will. In that moment, Emma realized something important, something that had been growing in her heart since the moment she had met Liam. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be herself, and that was enough. The future, whatever it held, was no longer something to fear. With Liam by her side, Emma knew she could face anything. And as they sat there under the stars, with the world moving quietly around them, she felt a deep sense of peace. This was where she belonged, right here, in this moment, with Liam. The next chapter of her life was just beginning, and she was ready for it. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's bond only grew stronger, and Emma couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for everything that had unfolded in her life. The past few months had been a whirlwind of changes, both in her personal and professional life. She had gone from being a struggling artist to someone whose work was now being recognized and celebrated. And all of it seemed to have happened because of the chance encounter with Liam, a millionaire who had seen something in her that she hadn't even seen in herself. Their relationship had blossomed into something real, something that both of them cherished. But with everything moving so fast, Emma found herself at a crossroads. The gallery, exhibitions, the media attention, the recognition, while it all felt like a dream come true, it also felt overwhelming at times. She still had doubts, still felt like an outsider in a world of wealth and privilege. She was an artist, yes, but she didn't come from this world. And as much as she loved the success she had found, there were moments when she wondered if she was losing touch with the person she had been before all of this began. One evening, after another successful exhibition where her art had sold out, Emma found herself sitting in the quiet of her studio, staring at the pieces around her. She was grateful for everything, but there was a part of her that felt lost. She hadn't realized how much she missed the simple, peaceful life she had before all the glamour and attention. The small apartment, the quiet walks in the park, the moments when she could just be herself, without anyone watching. Her phone buzzed, breaking her thoughts, and she saw that it was a message from Liam. Hey, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Are you free tonight? She smiled as she read the message. Liam always knew when she needed a little space, when she needed to talk. He had a way of sensing when something was off, even when she didn't say anything. She quickly typed a reply. I'm doing all right, just a little overwhelmed. I think I could use a break. What do you have in mind? Almost immediately, he responded. How about we get out of here for a bit? There's a small cafe by the water I've been wanting to show you. It's quiet, no crowds, just a peaceful evening. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. The idea of escaping the hustle and bustle, of spending time with Liam in a calm and intimate setting, sounded perfect. That sounds wonderful, she replied. I'll meet you there in an hour. When Emma arrived at the cafe, she felt the familiar sense of comfort that she had always felt with Liam. The small cafe was tucked away by the lake, its warm lights reflecting off the water, creating a serene and intimate atmosphere. Liam was already there, sitting at a small table by the window. He stood as she approached, his smile genuine and warm. You made it, he said, taking her coat and pulling out the chair for her. Of course, she replied, sitting down. I needed to get away from everything for a while. They both ordered coffee, and as they sat there, the conversation flowed easily, just like it always did. They talked about everything, her art, his work, their dreams, and even the things they hadn't yet figured out. For the first time in a while, Emma didn't feel the pressure of the outside world. She didn't feel like she had to be someone else. She could just be herself, and Liam seemed to appreciate that. I've been thinking a lot lately, Emma said after a while, her voice quieter than usual, about everything that's happened, and I guess I just feel like I'm losing myself in all of this. The art, the attention, the constant noise. I don't want to lose who I am, Liam. I don't want to forget the person I was before all of this. Liam listened intently, his gaze never leaving hers. He reached across the table and took her hand, his touch comforting. Emma, you haven't lost yourself. You're still the same person you've always been. You're just growing, evolving. And that's a good thing. I see the passion in your art, the drive you have to make something of yourself. That's who you are. And that's the person I fell in love with. His words touched something deep inside her, and she felt the weight of her worries lift just a little. I just want to make sure I don't get caught up in this world of fame and wealth, she continued. I don't want to lose sight of what matters. Liam smiled gently, his thumb brushing over her hand. Emma, you won't lose sight of what matters as long as you stay true to yourself. You've already proven that you're not in this for the fame or the money. You're in it because you love what you do, because you have something to say through your art. That's what makes you special. Emma looked at him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She had always been afraid that she would get caught up in the wrong things, but Liam's words reminded her of the truth. She was still the same person who had walked into that hotel months ago, unsure of where her life would lead. But now, she had found her way, and she had found someone who loved her for who she was, not for what she could offer. Thank you, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. For everything. Liam smiled, his eyes full of affection. I'll always be here for you, Emma, no matter what. As they sat there together, surrounded by the peacefulness of the evening, Emma realized that she had everything she needed right in front of her. With Liam by her side, she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The life she had always dreamed of was no longer a distant hope. It was her reality. And as they walked out of the cafe, hand in hand, Emma felt a deep sense of contentment, knowing that this was just the beginning of their journey together. As Emma and Liam walked through the quiet streets after leaving the cafe, the weight of the evening settled into her heart, and for the first time in months, she felt completely at peace. She had been so caught up in her fears and doubts, but in that moment, walking hand in hand with Liam, she realized that none of those things mattered anymore. They had both grown so much, and together, they had created something real, something worth fighting for. The city lights shimmered around them, but Emma's thoughts were elsewhere, focused on the man beside her, the future they would build together. They had spent so much time worrying about the obstacles they might face, about their differences, but Emma now knew that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about embracing the imperfections, the struggles, and growing stronger together. As they reached her apartment, Liam stopped and turned to her, his eyes soft and full of emotion. Emma, he began, his voice gentle. I've been thinking a lot about what you said tonight, about staying true to yourself. I know this world we're in can be overwhelming, and it's easy to lose yourself in it. But I want you to know that I'll always be here to remind you of who you are, and how incredible you are. Emma's heart swelled at his words, and she stepped closer to him, her hand resting on his chest. Thank you, she whispered. I've been afraid for so long, afraid of losing myself, afraid of not being enough. But with you, I don't feel that fear anymore. I feel like I can truly be who I am. Liam smiled, leaning in to kiss her softly on the forehead. You've always been enough, Emma. From the moment I met you, I saw the strength in you, and I will always be proud of you, no matter where life takes us. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Emma continued to thrive in her art, growing her studio, showing her work in galleries, and gaining recognition in the art world. With Liam by her side, she no longer felt like an outsider in this world of success and wealth. She felt like she belonged. But more than that, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Liam was right. Success hadn't changed her. It had only helped her become the person she had always wanted to be. They continued to support each other in everything they did, building a life together that was grounded in love, trust, and respect. One evening, as they sat in the park where they had first shared their dreams, Liam turned to Emma with a serious look on his face. Emma, he said softly, I've been thinking a lot about us, about the future. I know we've come a long way, but I want to take this next step with you. Emma looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling with anticipation. Liam took her hand in his expression sincere. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Emma. I love you more than words can say, and I want us to build a future together, not just as partners, but as a family. Emma's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing with emotion. Liam, I love you too, she whispered, her voice full of sincerity. I can't imagine my life without you in it. Liam smiled, his eyes glinting with warmth. Then will you marry me? Emma's heart soared as the words sank in, and a wide smile spread across her face. "Yes," she said, her voice full of joy and certainty. "Yes, I will marry you." And with that, Liam took Emma's hand, pulling her into a gentle kiss as the world around them seemed to fade away. They had both come a long way, and together, they would continue to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With love as their foundation, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. The road ahead was full of promise, and Emma knew that, no matter what, she would always be true to herself, with Liam by her side, ready to take on the world together. Their journey had only just begun, and Emma was ready for whatever came next, knowing that love would always be their guiding light.